Hello, I'm Ryan Sungali of Rappler.com, and this is Nissi Acasiano. Today we're speaking with one of the most exciting young wrestlers in the world today. He's a former TNA X Division champion and a Filipino American. We're speaking with Michael Parris, aka DJZ. Thank you very much for being with us today, Michael.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you, and good morning to everybody in Manila.
All right. Let's jump into some questions here. You portrayed a few personas in the ring. You were the first Filipino male model of wrestling, the ultimate party animal DJ. How close to Michael Parris are the characters that you've portrayed?
I mean, you hear that cliche.
How close to Michael Parris are some of the characters that you've portrayed in the ring?
I mean, you hear that cliche in pro wrestling that the best characters are the ones that are just your real-life personality with the volume turned up. I'd say that's kind of accurate for me. Not that I was a male model back in the day, but the male model character with his hairspray and his obsession with his hair, that's kind of accurate. I do have a bit of an obsession with my hair. And obviously with the DJ character, we still do have interesting hair, but the difference with that one is I really was a DJ, and they decided to take this real-life interest of mine and kind of transition it into professional wrestling. So it's cool. I get to have like both of my loves like in one character.
Well, it's great because I see that you've kept the headphones from your days as a DJ for your Skype interview.
Oh, yeah. We don't leave home without them.
Yeah. Well, part of the things that you've portrayed in the ring also, you've billed yourself as being from the Philippines. You've made it no secret that you represent the Philippines. Were you around the Filipino culture much growing up?
I was completely in the Filipino culture. My mom is from Pampanga, and she came to the United States 1985. I was born 1986. So my mom was an immigrant from the Philippines. My dad was living in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, he died when I was 5 years old. So from my earliest memories, I was raised solely by my mother in a completely Filipino household. The only thing that wasn't Filipino was the fact that she never taught me Tagalog. But that was because she said when I was a kid, I just wasn't really interested in learning another language. And she didn't really think I needed it anyway growing up in the United States. But yeah, like everything from the food to, the Filipino parties, like it was completely Filipino household growing up.
Mike, can you tell us how important is the role of your mother growing up?
I mean, it's very important. My mom, without her, like none of this would be possible. She was a single mom from another country. She got to the United States, she didn't have a car, she didn't have a job, she wasn't even fully an American citizen, and somehow she had to raise 3 kids and make this all work. I don't know how she did it. To this day, I have no idea how she was able to raise 3 kids who all graduated college and have all went on to do successful things. It says a lot about her and her ability to raise kids and be a good mom. So, yeah, I owe everything to her.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously your mother was a very strong person. Has the sacrifices that she's made to give you and your family a better life, has that been something that has made you more proud of your Filipino heritage? And has that made it more important for you to be vocal about your pride?
Absolutely. Like, my mom has a lot to be proud of. You know, the sacrifices she made, I can't even begin to fathom what it would be like. Because I'm sure you've heard the story. It's well documented. My mom was a mail-order bride. She left the Philippines for Singapore when she was like in her late 20s, probably about my age. I'm 29 now. So she left the Philippines for Singapore, and from Singapore, she became a mail-order bride and came to the United States. Like, I'm 29 right now. If I were to just pick up and go to the other side of the world and marry somebody that I don't even know, like, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult that must have been for her. Because that's exactly what happened. She married my dad, who was 30 years older than her, But I guess that's kind of kind of common for like a Filipino woman to be with an older guy. That's kind of common, right? But yeah. So she went to the other side of the world after living a full adult life in the Philippines, and basically just started from scratch. She was in the United States, and didn't really know anybody, didn't have friends, wasn't really all that good at English, and my dad traveled a lot. He was on the road, not unlike me on the road these days. So my dad was gone a lot, and my mom was just raising the kids by herself. And then my dad, like I said, he died, and my mom had to raise us all on her own. So her sacrifices, I'm very proud of her. Very proud to have grown up Filipino and in a Filipino household. So, she's one of a kind, I got to tell you.
Yeah, seeing that sacrifice with your mom, what are the Filipino traits that really stick to you growing up, or the traits that still embody you up to the present time?
I mean, I think the Filipinos, in my experience, we're very kind people. We're very welcoming, very accommodating people, and like that's something that like I kind of grew up with, just getting along with everybody and being nice and respectful to all people, and that's definitely carried with me to this day. I know my mom's that way too. Like my mom's not a very judgmental person. She kind of accepts everybody for who they are, and I think that those traits were instilled in me, and I'm kind of the same way. So I definitely owe her for that. She's made me a good person overall.
Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever visited the Philippines?
No, unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to visit the Philippines. And my mom, actually, she didn't get to go back to the Philippines until 2012. So think about that. She came to the United States in 1985. She didn't get to see her family, her brothers, her sisters. She didn't return to the Philippines until 2012, when my brother got her a plane ticket for Christmas, and he went with her, actually. So my brother's been to the Philippines. I have not, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. We got to get out of here sometime. I want to ask you, because you started as a wrestler very young, as a teenager. In fact, you weren't allowed to work because you were too young initially. How did you get into becoming a wrestler? Is that something that you wanted to do since you were young?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, being a wrestler was always a dream of mine. It's actually kind of interesting how I wound up training to be a wrestler. Fun fact, I designed the original Ring of Honor logo, the original ROH logo, and the catchphrase, "We don't imitate, we innovate." I came up with all of that when I was like 15 years old. I won a contest, designed the ROH logo, and I got some free wrestling videos, and they told me I could have tickets to Ring of Honor shows whenever I wanted. So when I was like 16 years old, I think, Ring of Honor came to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which was near where I grew up, and I went to the show for free. After the show, I stuck around trying to get some autographs from the wrestlers, and I met CM Punk and Colt Cabana, and I asked them, how could I become a professional wrestler? They told me, here, you're from Pittsburgh, meet this guy. And it was this dude named Norm Connors who ran a wrestling school in Pittsburgh. I signed up right away, and a few months later I was in the wrestling school, and that's how it all started.
I agree.
Going back to the character, like you've been a DJ, you've been a Filipino male model. Have you ever considered going into a serious face of a persona in professional wrestling?
You mean like a babyface character?
No, a serious type, like a tougher, a grimmer character.
I don't know. Like, I think the male model character in 2012, despite the character being a male model, if you look back at my X Division title run, it was pretty serious stuff there. I was breaking people's arms every week on television. My demeanor was quite serious, quite dark, despite playing this like kind of flashy character. So I think, I've explored that route before, and I'm willing to do it again if the opportunity's there. But I just take what's, handed to me, and right now, like, they're happy with the DJ, and I'm happy with the DJ. So, yeah, we're doing that for now. But of course, it can progress, it can evolve, and I'd love to get more serious with it.
There are a few Filipino American wrestlers in the industry, but where do you get that sense of pride of incorporating Filipino pride in your character?
It's just natural. Like, I'm proud of my heritage, and I think that's another reason why I try to make a point to mention that I'm Filipino and to announce that I'm from the Philippines, just because there isn't a lot of Filipino American professional wrestlers or Filipino wrestlers in general. So I think it's important to kind of get that started. Like, maybe there's Filipinos that are watching wrestling and now they have somebody to cheer for that they can relate to, you know? Whereas, like, there's a ton of Mexican wrestlers, ton of British wrestlers, ton of Japanese wrestlers. It's not really like that so much for the Filipinos. So I'm just trying to get that started. And it's great that there's other Filipinos out there, too, that are so proud of their heritage, like TJ Perkins or Batista, you know? So it's good. We're slowly getting the little scene started here.
When are we going to see a faction, or the Filipino invasion, so to speak? We need to get you together with TJP, and of course you've had some great matches with him in the past. Maybe we can get Batista out of Hollywood and get a monster faction going.
That sounds good to me, man. That would be awesome.
Great. And, of course, you've had some excellent matches lately. You're working with, of course, TJP, Tigre Uno. Tell me, if someone is watching your stuff on YouTube right now, they're looking for the best DJZ matches, which matches would you say for them to look up?
It's kind of difficult because I'm definitely my own worst critic when it comes to my matches. But, I mean, there's so many that I've had over the years. My matches with Rob Van Dam are definitely special to me, and I think they're good. That's some of my best work at TNA, probably my matches with Rob Van Dam. I really enjoyed the Ultimate X match we just had at Bound for Glory 2015. That was with TJ, Tigre Uno, and Andrew Everett. It's a good match. You should definitely go out of your way to check it out. Also, there was a three-way match with me, TJ, and Tigre Uno from Slammiversary 2015. All pretty good matches, so I would start with those. But, just kind of go down a rabbit hole sometime. Just type in Zima Ion and go back and watch the old stuff, because there was a lot of cool things that I was doing years ago that I think have been forgotten or just kind of like overlooked through the years. And I think they still hold up to this day. So just type in Zima Ion on YouTube sometime and see what you find.
Great. Tell me some of your funniest moments. So what would you say stands out as the funniest moment that you've experienced either in the ring or backstage?
I mean, there's a lot, especially with me. I'm quite the troublemaker. But, man, like, I got to think, like, what's even appropriate to tell, because so many of my stories are, I mean, it's not suitable to tell on a public forum. But, I guess it's kind of funny, like, the story of, I guess, the evolution of my wrestling name, because if you, like, really, like, search, my wrestling name back in the day was Shima Zion. Before I was ever in TNA, my wrestling name was Shima Zion. And this was a name that I came up with when I was 16 years old, and there's a lot of things that I thought were cool at 16 that I don't necessarily still think are cool today. Like, do you guys remember the band Disturbed?
Yeah, of course. Stupefy.
Yeah, when I was 16, I thought Disturbed was awesome. Like, today, I probably wouldn't listen to Disturbed. But, yeah, it's just the same thing. Like, Shima Zion, I came up with this name when I was 16 years old. And then as I started getting older and actually becoming a pro wrestler, I was, like, stuck with this name that I didn't even like. It didn't make any sense. It was terrible from a marketing standpoint because nobody could pronounce it. Nobody could spell it. It wasn't something that was going to stick with you at the end of the night. So I really hated this name, Shima Zion, and I was stuck with it. Stupid name I came up with when I was 16. Fast forward a few years, I got to TNA, and I thought this is finally my chance to get rid of the name Shima Zion. This is my big chance. I can finally get rid of it. So I stay up all night coming up with a list of names, like what could be something better. I'm coming up with all these cool names. Some of them were like Filipino-centric names. I have the whole list, like 25 different names. I get to the TV tapings the next day, and I approach Vince Russo, who was the head writer at the time, and I say, "Hey, Vince Russo, I've got the list of names." He's like, "Oh, we already got your name." "Oh? Yeah, you're Shima Zion, right?" Yeah. Zima Ion. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to change your name. So he's thinking he's doing me like a favor here, and like meanwhile my heart's sinking because I'm like, no, Zima Ion, that's even worse than Shima Zion. This is terrible. And it's like my first day in the company, so what am I gonna do? Like say, no, I don't like that name. I demand you change it. Like you can't really do that on your first day in the company. So I'm stuck with this name Zima Ion, and we did like a pre-tape that was going to air on the show that night. So I had like this promo, and would you believe it? Full circle, after years of people mispronouncing my name, I mispronounced my own name on national television.
You ribbed yourself. Congrats.
I called myself Zima Eon because I wasn't entirely sure like how to pronounce it, because he told me Zima Ion, but I think I was just so flustered that I wasn't even hearing it correctly. And when I got ready to do the promo, I called myself Zima Eon, and I'm like, man, I can't believe it. We've come full circle. I've mispronounced my own name. It's come to that. So that's a funny story that I like to tell people about how the name Zima Ion actually came about.
Nice. Of course, people know the risks that you guys take, especially in the X division. You guys are hanging above the ring. You guys are flying above the air. What was the worst injury that you say that you've experienced in the ring?
I mean, me personally, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't gotten hurt too bad. I sprained my ankle a couple months ago in Russia, and it's still sprained to this day. It's going to take a while to heal. But I mean, that's really it. Just like sprained ankles and just like nagging injuries. I've been pretty lucky, honestly.
Oh, nice.
What can you say about the comparisons, the drawing comparisons, the striking similarities of the X division and WCW's cruiserweight?
I mean, they're basically the same thing. The cruiserweight style of wrestling, like whether it's WCW or X division, it's the same style. I think it's just that in our particular case, the X division of today, we're a lot younger and not as like world traveled and experienced as the WCW cruiserweights. Because like, man, those guys like Dean Malenko was like training like his whole life, and like Chris Benoit had like been through like Japanese dojos, and Eddie Guerrero had grown up his whole life wrestling. So those dudes were like super experienced by the time they got to WCW. So, I mean, they were at a very high quality, whereas a lot of the TNA guys in the X division, we're still pretty young for the most part and still kind of learning the ropes. So I think that's the main difference between the two, is just the levels of experience in our primes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Following the disbandment of Bromance, how is it like having the solo spotlight now? Like you're having a singles run and competing in the X division?
To be honest, I was much happier with the Bromance. I thought we had like a really good act going. It was different. It was fresh. It was like a fun thing that you could look forward to on the show. And I think the Bromance had a lot of life left in it. Obviously, they broke us up. They had their reasons for doing so. But me personally, I thought the Bromance could have been a great like comedy babyface team. I think that we had life left in us, and hopefully someday we can revisit that. But you just got to make the most of the opportunity. And now here I am, solo in the X division, still trying to find myself and where I belong. So it's a transition period, but sooner or later we're gonna figure it all out.
I think the issue was that some of the boys in the locker room were complaining about the hairspray in the air. They couldn't. They were getting blown up in the locker room already.
Well, we were causing some holes in the ozone layer, maybe.
Well, of course, you mentioned some great wrestlers earlier. Question: if you could go back in time, or there's a time machine, and you could wrestle anyone from live or dead, who would it be?
I'm not really sure. I'm always bad with those questions because I just really like to wrestle anybody. I'm not I don't have dream opponents so much, but I guess it would have been cool to wrestle Ravishing Rick Rude, who's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I actually have him tattooed on my arm.
Wow! Can you make a dance though? Like Ravishing Rick Rude?
We might be able to if I shake my arm a little bit, maybe. But maybe Ravishing Rick Rude, just because I thought he was the ultimate professional wrestler. He had the best body, he had the best matches, and all the girls loved him. What more could you ask for? So I think Rick Rude would have been a great opponent. He's just the ultimate ring general too. If you go back and watch his matches, especially his WCW run in the mid '90s, man, he was just the best. The best matches. He could have good matches with anybody, big guys, small guys, even the jobbers. He made everybody look good. So I would have liked to wrestle him just because I know he would have made me look way better than I actually am.
And of course, he was also the only guy who ever showed up on Raw and Nitro the same night.
Absolutely, he's historic.
I'm going to ask you. You've been around so many great wrestlers. What's the best piece of advice you ever received from someone?
I got a piece of advice from Pat Kinney, who's one of the agents at TNA. This was years ago. I definitely can be a bit of a control freak at times when it comes to wrestling, and he gave me a piece of advice early on in my TNA career that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to that. He told me, if you stay married to your ideas, you will always end up divorced. And what that means is you have to be open to other people's ideas, other perspectives. And at the time, I was a little stubborn. I thought that my way was the best, and I wasn't as willing to hear other people's opinions. And he told me that, and it definitely opened my eyes and made me realize, I need to, listen to other perspectives, other ideas, and some second opinions.
Mm-hmm. Well, you may or may not know this, but indie wrestling is picking up in the Philippines now. There's a Philippine Wrestling Revolution. Have you had a chance to see any of the wrestling that's going on in the Philippines yet?
Are these the guys that don't have a ring and they just wrestle on some mats?
Yeah, they're wrestling in a boxing ring, but I think now they're going to get a wrestling ring.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I had seen some clips. I think they messaged me once. They contacted me on Twitter at one point, and kind of went back and forth. Obviously, they're still just starting out, but who knows? There could be an opportunity someday for me to work with them. But I think it's good that they're starting a wrestling scene in the Philippines. I think it's long overdue. There's wrestling all over the world, and I was wondering when the Philippines was going to get its own independent promotion. I had done some independent work in Singapore last year, and I'm going to Thailand in January to wrestle. So I'm like, man, I keep getting closer and closer to the Philippines, but nothing is actually there yet. So I wish them the best of luck, and I hope that things work out for them.
Mm-hmm. We're going to wrap it up in a minute, but just want to ask you one last thing. Of course, you've accomplished so much in your career so far. You're one of the most over wrestlers everywhere you seem to go. X Division champion. What things do you still want to accomplish in your career? What goals do you still have? And do you ever see yourself on a larger stage?
Oh, yeah. I definitely could see myself on a larger stage. It depends on if I'll get the opportunity to do so. Whether that larger stage is just maybe being another X Division champion at TNA, maybe it's chasing after other championships at TNA, maybe it's going to NXT or something. Who knows what the future holds, but I'm open to all possibilities, and the important thing is just to be prepared, because you never know when the opportunity is going to come knocking, and you got to be ready for it. So I'm just trying to stay prepared for anything that comes my way. And I think you'll definitely keep seeing me involved with wrestling for quite some time now. And yeah, I think the sky's the limit right now. The future is looking bright, so stay tuned, and hopefully I'll see you guys one day in the Philippines.
Well, we thank you very much for speaking with us today, and thank you very much for representing the Philippine culture on the world stage. Maybe sometime we could see you in an angle where you're making EC3 eat some balut.
I tried to make Jesse Goddard eat balut last summer, but he refused.
Well, thank you very much, Michael, and best of success to you.
Salamat. Thank you.
We thank you very much for tuning in today to our conversation with pro wrestler DJZ. For Rappler.com, I'm Ryan Sangalia, and this is Nissi Acasiano. Thank you very much.